No, no, it's a magazine. It's not a clip. It's not AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. That's stupid.
Oh shit. What is up, boys and girls? You don't want that to be you, do you? Clean your guns. Today we're going to be talking about how to clean the Wasser 10. This is going to go for pretty much any AK-74, AK-47, AKM variant. Probably the PP variants as well. Like this is going to be pretty universal for the AK platform. A clean gun is a happy gun, and a happy gun is a happy shooter. So first things first, as with always, anytime you're cleaning your firearm, clear it. With an AK, you're just going to rack it back, give it a visual inspection. Yep, there's nothing in there. Drop it. A couple of you guys really like to, rack the living crap out of it a few times. Hey, go to town. As long as you're safe, I'm happy. Let's get right into this cleaning though, because she's a dirty girl and she needs it. So, of the tools we are going to be using today, firstly, our lovely blue shop towels, same as we used last time for the AR cleaning videos. Part 1 is above if you'd like to see that. Second off, we are using the same Hoppe's 9 that we used last time. I've got the tiny hammer just in case. I've got just a couple 30 mil patches. And of course, I have got nice same handy dandy cleaning kit with all of the fun things inside there. Now this is generally what your bare bones AK is going to look like, or at least how our strip down is going to be the same here. Button in the back right there. Going to depress that all the way in and then lift straight up on your dust cover, which actually the dust cover is pretty gross. So you just take the same back of the button that you just pushed, that's actually attached to your recoil spring, just push that in, pull it out. It's going to be floppy like that. That is perfectly normal. It is a dual segmented recoil spring rod thing in there. Pull your bolt carrier all the way back, lift it up and off, and there you've got one hell of a carbon scored piston that needs to be cleaned. And I guess I'll take the gas tube off just to show that to you. This key right here needs to be turned upwards. It's very tight because I've only done this a couple times. Taking it off a couple times, I mean. Look at that, tiny hammer coming in handy again. Keep coming up on it. Okay, and you'll see at the front here, zoom in a little more on that. You'll see at the front here, if you rotate this, you can actually see the half moon lock rotating in there. So rotate it until it's vertical, basically so you can't see it vertically, and then your gas tube is just going to lift straight up and out. So for this, I don't know that I'm going to actually resort to going for any of the Q-tips that I did for the AR. It's gonna be mostly just the blue rag, and then the stuff that's in the cleaning kit, because there aren't so many like tiny little crevices in here that I can't actually access with the rag itself. If I do start finding them, I'll go grab a couple, but I think I'll be okay. Like in the rails here on the sides that the bolt carrier actually runs on, those are pretty nasty. But I'm able to get a rag in there. But those are going to be very important that the sides are clean here, because that is where you're getting a lot of your motion. So that's going to be one area we're going to put a couple drops of oil in as well. So make sure that you have your hammer back at least at the beginning here, so you can give the hammer face and everything a scrub, and then bring it forward and get everything else that you can clean out in there. Shouldn't be too dirty. Most of our nasty gases are staying out of this area since they are just riding up front here where the gas tube is. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay. I'm going to throw a drop of oil on the hammer springs here, and that's kind of it on the interior. Just your hammer spring on the right and the left there. That's pretty much all I'm running in there for now. So that is the receiver as done as it's gonna get right now. So I'm gonna set that aside, and we're gonna move on to the dust cover. Just give it a wipe down. This is nothing too crazy. Oh, yeah, it's icky for sure. Set that aside. Gonna move on to our spring and spring guide. More or less, this is just get it inside your shop towel or your rag or whatever you're using, and give it a couple of spins. Just get all that surface dirt and carbon buildup and everything off of there as best as you can. Put a little cleaner on this guy, because this one definitely has some buildup on it. Front and back. Got our gas tube here, and I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna get some cleaner in there and on the outside as well. We're gonna give it a good scrub out, so I'm not too worried about it. Plenty of carbon buildup up in there, so we want to get as much of that off as possible. All right, so now we got our bolt carrier group and piston, all that stuff. We're going to take this apart. Extremely simple. There's a groove here that it rides in when it rotates, because it is a rotating locking bolt. You just rotate it to the back, keep rotating it until it comes out of this groove right there. Pull forward. Done is done. Now we're not going to actually remove the front side of the piston here. We're just going to spray the whole thing down. This is just one big chunk of steel here, and there's a bolt or a screw that goes into the back and holds the piston in place. Not going to worry about removing all that, but I am going to give the whole thing a thorough spray down with the cleaner. Let it sit while we're working on our bolts. Get a little crowded on this towel here.
3 hours later.
All right, so we are going to continue with the parts that we have sprayed down. Everything should be nice and soaked. Now I know, very soaked. Good. Now I know that my gas tube here is pretty nasty in there. It's got a decent amount of carbon buildup, and yeah, that's gonna work. This is a 12 gauge brush, but I'm going to just use it real quick for the gas tube here. Just going to give it a couple passes through with the 12 gauge brush. Oh, you can see that brush came out black. Real nasty. So I'm going to use a 12 gauge brush as well. Get a little scrubbing action going on inside there. So, okay, so the 16 gauge brush is doing a lot better for me, I think, here. Just going to get everything that we just loosened up off the walls. Yeah, it's already looking a ton better in there. Yeah, yuck. So lastly here, I'm going to use my my brush, get it in there. Just give those walls a good scrub. They're looking pretty darn nasty as well. And yeah, we're looking definitely a lot better. Run through with the brush time or two more here. It's probably about as good as it's gonna get. It's pretty decent in there now. And now we are going to give our spring a second scrub here after it's been soaked. And now we see the reason why we soak it. So while I said about the AR that you should definitely clean it after every single time you shoot it, the same advice could be given for almost every gun. It's just that the AR will become unreliable a lot quicker if you don't clean it frequently. Even with all this nastiness in the AK, it was still putting the rounds downrange just fine. Last but not least, here we have got our carrier and our extremely carbon covered piston here. I'm just gonna. Nice thing about this is all pretty large external hole. Ew. And most of it's gonna be more or less just put it in a cloth and give it a good twist, you know, a few dozen times. Give the carrier itself a nice good wipe down. This isn't going to be too carbon covered. This is mostly just all exterior. All this here is just going to be all external, so you're not going to get too much carbon on that. It's just mostly just going to be dirt. But in these little grooves here and inside of here where your bolt goes, definitely give that some attention. Grab one of my brushes here and run it through here, loosen anything up that's in there, and then I'll scrub it. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's pretty clean. The back grooves here are going to be what runs along those slots that I showed you earlier on the interior of the lower receiver. So make sure those are clean. Don't want anything hanging up your bolt carrier. And I'm also going to give those some oil. Just a drop on each side, nothing crazy. I'm going to put some oil in this channel as well because we've got the rotating bolt lug that goes in here. You can just wipe off the excess with your rag. Alright, so last thing we're going to do here is strip the bolt. There she is. Now this is going to come down to a total of 6 pieces. It's going to be the actual bolt itself. It's going to be the retaining pin, for the firing pin itself, the retaining pin for the extractor, and the extractor spring as well. You'll see at the top of the lug here, you'll see a little circle there that is a different color. That is the top of the pin, and it goes straight across the bolt face and down underneath here. So I'm actually going to go stick this in a vise and just hit it with a big hammer and a punch and get this pin loose. And I will come back once that's done. You may have to do the same, just depending on how tight your pins are. But yeah, this pin right here is gonna pop out the top right there. All right, no offense to Tiny Hammer, but a few good whacks with a real hammer and I was able to loosen it up. So you'll see it protrude at the top here. Just wanna get a good grip on that with some pliers. Okay, there it is, just a good yank, and that is our retention pin. And right at the bottom, you'll see the firing pin falls right out. All right, now we're going to actually remove the extractor itself right there. And this pin, you can kind of see in that hole right there is the top of it. It's at an angle, so your retention pin for the firing pin can go over top of it. So we're going to come in from the other side. This is at a cross angle across the extractor. It's the larger hole just to the left of the hole we just used. And this one's actually significantly easier, at least it was last time I did it. Since this is under pressure, under tension, you're going to want to pull the extractor back and hold it down with your thumb as you're pushing this pin out. And this one comes out, yeah, a lot easier. So that's that right there. You see what I'm saying about it being really sharp. Set that aside. Now the extractor is, like I said, under tension, but not so much tension that it's just gonna like boing and fly away. So you pull that off. There's a tiny spring in there, don't lose that. And set that aside as well. Boom, 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 boom. And these are pretty carbon covered, so I'm going to give them a bit, once I spritz them here. Sure you're getting both sides of everything inside the spring. Get those pins nice and wet. I'll let that sit aside for a bit. All right, our parts have been soaking for quite some time now, so we are just going to give them a nice scrub. Like I said before, this isn't too bad. Kind of nasty on the bolt face, but exterior's not too nasty. Firing pin, a little bit gross, but not too bad. All right, firing pin is fine. Wasn't in really bad shape to begin with. Got our extractor here. And of course our teeny tiny little parts, the spring and the two retention pins, can just get a basic scrub down here. So here's also where a cotton swab would come in handy. Right up in here in this channel where the firing pin would normally go. Can clean down there with that. And also up here in the front where the extractor goes. So yeah, it's real gross in there. Now, I don't know if you can see in there, it's probably a little tough, but it's actually very, very clean. And that's a mile better than it was before. Get that bolt face again. Now around the edge of the bolt face, you'll see there's a little groove that also can get pretty darn nasty. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Mine is relatively gross. Give it a nice little scrub, and this is another place where something small to scrub in there. Cotton swab will be nice. In this case, I'm just gonna scrape it down and give it a nice twirl. This mat is gonna need a wash for sure. I can thank Rudiman Arms once again. I'm gonna link this mat in the description below if you want their gun mats. They've got a couple of them actually. They're very nice. Okay, so that is it. We have got our bolt, our firing pin retention pin, extractor retention pin, extractor, and extractor spring all nice and clean, as well as our recoil spring, our gas tube, and our bolt carrier and piston. I definitely could scrub this piston face a little more, but for time's sake, I'm going to show you guys how to reassemble, and that should be it. All our large parts can go aside for now. We're just going to reassemble our bolt. So first things first here, we're going to drop our spring into the extractor. There's no fibers on there. And drop that into place. Make sure that the grooves that the pins go through are facing inward. But this hole right here, you're going to want to see daylight through. There you go, a little bit there. This is where the pin goes through, the large one. And from this side, you're going to want to take the pin with the sharp kind of angular side and face that towards you. Get yourself a nice pinhole there, and ouch, it's kind of sharp, so just be careful, don't stab yourself too much. This is why a punch set is a very nice thing to have. Okay, so we're actually gonna push this in far enough that you can see daylight through the other pinhole, which is right there. See if I can get that one. That one's gonna be really tough. Oh, there you go. There you go. Right between my fingers there, you're gonna want to see a clear hole through there. Okay, so you'll see this little groove right here, and you're gonna want to see this pin riding over the top of the other one that you had just put in there. That's why it's got to be with that groove facing forward, so this pin can go right past it there. So just make sure that you can actually see both pins in there. And my firing pin fell out, but it's not the end of the world. Just drop it back in. There we go. And we're going to give it a A couple of taps with the tiny hammer. All right, nice and flush. Make sure you can just hear your firing pin rattling around in there. And if you hold it upside down, you should be able to bounce it freely, just like this. Of course, before we reassemble everything, we should probably get around to cleaning the barrel. That's probably a little bit important, isn't it? So I'm going to take my ramrod here, and I'm just gonna put all 3 extensions on it. Or all 2 extensions, I guess, for all 3 lengths. So you're gonna grab a 30 cal brush, doopy doopy doop. And once again, just like last time, so we're not dumping any debris into the receiver, we're gonna go receiver side first, come in from the back, and give it a good shove. Okay, back and forth a couple times. All right, so now your cleaning kit should have a little fisheye thing like this that you're going to be able to thread down the barrel. I'm not sure if the large one's going to fit. I'm just testing it. It is not, so we're going to have to use the small one. That's fine. If your kit doesn't come with 2, then it will more than likely only come with the small one, so you don't have to worry about that so much. All right, so once you've got that patch threaded through, should have come with double wings like that. You're going to run that through the barrel as well, both directions. It's going to be tight. Just give it all you got. There we go. Now you can see how nasty that barrel was on the one side there. Yuck. Pull it back through. Okay, I'm going to run through one more time. And out. All right, we're gonna call that good. Got a nice little clean spot in the center there so you can compare. See how dirty our barrel was. Very, very is how dirty it was. So nice. Throw that patch out now, and we will reassemble. So when you take your bolt and you take your bolt carrier, make sure that the locking lug is facing upwards before you slide it into this groove here. And then you can rotate it down so the locking lug goes into this actual channel, and then rotate it all the way forward. Kind of want to make sure that the hammer is down in the rifle before you try to put the carrier back in, otherwise it's simply not going to happen. And when you're doing this, keep in mind that you will in fact be fighting against those hammer springs, so you have to push down on the carrier before it goes into place. And then throw it all the way forward once it's locked into those rails. The first couple times you do this, it can be a pain in the butt. The 10th time you do this, it can be a bit of a pain in the butt. You just gotta slide it in there pretty much exactly right, and you'll be able to lock it all the way forward like that. We're gonna throw our recoil spring in the hole in the back of the carrier, all the way in, and then these little extrusions on the side here, these little wings, are gonna go into this dovetail right there. So you're gonna push forward, and then on its own spring tension, let it come back into that dovetail. Our dust cover is going to lock into the front groove here, just above the bolt carrier and kind of just under your leaf sight. And this one, the button at the back here, that's at the back of that recoil spring, is going to be what retains the dust cover. In my case, I had to put an optic back on, so we're going to slide that back on our rail, tighten it up. Sure, we're nice and tight. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have one complete AK variant, nice and clean, ready to shoot. I'm very excited about it. This is an unloaded magazine. Oh yeah. That's just a beautiful sight right there. That is just gorgeous. So there she blows. That is it. A nice clean gun, and you are ready to fire without malfunction. As is the case with all firearms, make sure your weapon is clear before you clean it. I know we said that at the beginning, but I literally cannot say that enough. an incredible amount of gun deaths in the United States are caused because someone has a gun cleaning accident, they don't check their chamber, and they accidentally end their own lives. So guys, be careful with your firearms. These things are built to be respected, built to be cleaned, and yeah, built to make the shooty boom boom in a responsible direction. So definitely clean your gun, have some fun with it, and come on back for the next one. I think we're just gonna keep cleaning stuff. Just tear apart some pistols, bolt action rifles, whatever I've got around here. Anyway guys, thank you very much for joining me. Between the last video and this one, we skidded right past that 300 subs mark, so thank you to each and every one of you. I appreciate it. Dump comments in the section below if you've got anything to say, anything I did wrong, or anything that you want to suggest me to do for the future. Hit me up. We're still small enough, I can get to each and every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Oh shit, this isn't my house.